We've spoken about a lot of things that can actually cause cell damage. We spoke about reactive oxygen species. We spoke about increase of calcium levels in the cytoplasm. We also spoke about this thing, ATP depletion. We spoke about so many things, right? We spoke about some conditions that are affecting the mitochondria. And one of the conditions that we spoke about in the overview lecture was membrane damage. Okay, if there's damage to the membrane of the plasma membrane, if there's damage to the membrane of lysosomes, of course, you know that lysosomes have enzymes. So if you are breaking down the membrane, the enzymes are now flowing into the cell. Now, the cell itself is being held into place by what? The plasma membrane. If you are breaking down the plasma membrane, you are freeing up the organelles of the cell, right? So we'll be talking about membrane damage as a mechanism of what? Cell injury. So you could see this if there's a reversible injury, the cell will go back to normal. If there's an irreversible injury, this can lead to what? Breaking down of the cell. Okay. So now there are four mechanisms of membrane damage. If there's a membrane damage, then okay. There are four mechanisms that can lead to membrane damage. All right, sorry, I was skipping. So there are four mechanisms that can basically lead to membrane damage. If there are presence of what? Reactive oxygen species in the cell. I know that reactive oxygen species are a group of substances that have uh, a free electron in its orbit. Okay, so that free electron is always looking for another electron so that it can hit the stable state. Do you understand? So if you have uh, reactive oxygen species, it will react with what? Lipids of the cell. Okay, lipids that make up the membrane of the cell. Okay, thereby converting those lipids into peroxide, and that's what we call lipid peroxidation. And this lipid peroxidation will lead to what? Phospholipid loss. And this will lead to what? Membrane damage. Hope the first mechanism is explained properly. Then we have reduced phospholipid synthesis, of course. If there's reduced phospholipid synthesis, you see that red arrow by the side shows decrease, reduction. Reduction in phospholipid synthesis will lead to what? Loss of phospholipid, and this will lead to what? Membrane damage. Then if there's increased phospholipid breakdown by increased cytosolic calcium. So if there's increased cytosolic calcium, it's what activates the enzyme that actually what degrades phospholipid. That's a phospholipase. So the phospholipase will be activated. Now there will be increase in phospholipid degradation, and this will lead to what? Lipid breakdown. Okay, and this will lead to what? Membrane damage. Cytoskeletal abnormalities caused by what? Cytosolic calcium. If calcium is too much in the cell too, it can also what? Activate the enzyme protease. Right? Now this protease will now feed on the cytoskeleton and to cause defects at many regions. So this protease is activated and it can cause cytoskeletal damage, and this cytoskeletal damage can lead to what? Membrane damage too. Okay. So now, key consequences of what? Membrane damage. You know there are different membranes in the cell. There's membrane of the mitochondria. There's a plasma membrane which is covering the whole cell, and there's a lysosomal membrane which is basically housing all those enzymes. Okay. So mitochondrial membrane, if there's a damage in mitochondrial membrane, it can cause ATP depletion because the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So it produces energy, and for it to produce energy, it needs all its parts intact. So if you have membranes being damaged, then there's reduction in the production of energy. Then there will be release of what? Pro-apoptotic proteins like cytochrome C2. Then if there's damage in the plasma membrane, it can lose the osmotic balance, causing some fluids to flow into the cell when they are not supposed to be. Then there could be influx of fluids and ion. There could be loss of cellular components because the plasma membrane is the one that is maintaining the integrity of the cell. If it is broken down, all other organelles now rush out. Do you understand? Then lysosomal membrane damage. You know that there are some enzymes in the lysosome. So if the membrane is being damaged, then the enzymes will leak out. That's leakage of enzymes into the cytoplasm. The enzymes that can leak out include what? RNAs, DNAs, proteases, then phosphatases. Right. So guys, that's it about membrane damage as a mechanism of what? Cell injury. You guys got to know the different membranes that we have in the cell: mitochondrial membrane, plasma membrane, and lysosomal membrane. Okay, so that's it, guys, and see you guys.